Now, real people, real opinions. Nighttime talk with Niall Boylan.
Ireland's classic hits radio.
All right, welcome back. Just to mention, by the way, it's just come out there in RT News. The leaders of the three government parties have agreed that the general election will take place in 2024. Surprise, surprise. Taoiseach and Fine Gael leader Simon Harris, Fianna Fáil leader Micheál Martin and Green Party Roderick O'Gorman have agreed that the passage of the finance bill is the priority for the government. The committee stage of the bill will commence on the 5th of November. While no date has been announced, the leaders have confirmed that polling will take place later this year, and they're speculating now the focus will be on November the 29th. It's getting later, isn't it? But they are definitely going to have an election before Christmas. And this is what I said to you going back in July after I ran for election at the time. I said, I guarantee you there'll be a general election, but they will wait till probably the coldest day they can do it. And the reason is very obvious for that. There's a psychology. And I spoke to a really interesting guy going back about 6 months ago. Must get him on again. And he talks about how to campaign for an election. And he talked about that if you're the incumbent, that basically it's like a referendum, essentially, for you. So basically you just have to keep the vote. You don't have to get it. You just have to keep it. And the best way to keep it is have as little people voting as possible. So those who are determined for change are the ones that have to come out. The ones that don't want change will just go and vote anyway. That's fine. So I always said, I think we've Stockholm syndrome in this country because we just keep voting for the same parties over and over again. So they will be hoping on the night of polling or the day of polling that it's a cold, wet, horrible, dark day. That's psychology. That's the psychology behind it. That discourages those who ordinarily don't vote not to bother. But those who religiously vote for the same parties over and over again will go out and vote. The D4 voters, the Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil voters, they will be out there in force. So that's what they hope for. And I said it in July. It'll happen in late November. I predicted it. And I'm spot on. Thank you, Niall. They look for the cold day. A cold, wet, horrible, miserable day. That's what they ideally would like. I know maybe they're not thinking of that, but I'm sure they have spin doctors and psychologists to talk about this. But anyway, that's just to confirm it anyway. They've said tonight, all three parties said tonight, and they have now confirmed the general election will happen before Christmas. And they're saying because of the finance bill, and I knew that had to go through, which they're saying we should be commenced on the 5th of November. There's the speculation now it might be pushed out to the 29th, which is a little bit later than we expected initially. People were thinking somewhere around the 20th or the 22nd, wasn't it, initially? Anyway, now I want to move on. Predictions for 2025 are not looking great, with Bulgarian mystic Baba Vanga, one of the world's most renowned clairvoyants, predicting an all-out European war. Nostradamus also predicted that cruel wars would hit those from the lands of Europe. Now, he probably wouldn't have said Europe because Europe didn't exist, of course, when Nostradamus was around. Now, the thing about Nostradamus, by the way, was he spoke in quatrains, which were lines of 4 lines of sentences. And you can kind of interpret those whichever way you want. I remember people said, oh, he predicted World War II. He said that flying pigs in the sky. And the pigs are the masks, the oxygen masks they wear in the bomber planes. And people go, well, that's a bit of a loose connection, isn't it? Allegedly, he also predicted 9/11. It said that these mystics predicted 9/11 and other world-changing events. But how much truth is in that? I don't know. Now, just jumping away from those kind of predictions, I don't want to get your predictions for it. We'll do that later in the year, by the way, your predictions for 2025. I do predict, by the way, there could be a war, a very serious war. And that worries me quite a lot for the young people of this world. But anyway, I was going to say a lighter note, but it's not really lighter. We still have, they're not as popular as they used to be, psychics and mediums. They're still around, you know, they're out there. You pay 40 quid or 60 quid, you go to some woman's house. It's always a woman, isn't it? And it's primarily women that are attracted to these people for some reason. I have no idea why. It's just primarily women. Some guys do. And they go and they tell you what your future's going to be. Or if somebody has died close to you, they'll go and tell you they're talking to dead people. You know what I mean? And they'll come up with all sorts of silly stuff like, he says, by the way, make sure you don't leave the key in the door tomorrow and make sure the grass is cut. Oh, yeah, that's my Tom. He would say that because he loves cutting the grass. You know, and all this, like, you know what I'm talking about. But I'm asking you, are they legitimate? Does anyone still think they're legitimate? Psychics and mediums? Because coming up to Halloween, that kind of stuff gets very popular. The number is 087 188 0008. Or are they people who just prey on the vulnerable? Who prey on people with weaknesses? People who are desperate. Because when some poor woman loses her husband or vice versa, you know, they're sad, they're grieving. And then they go to these mediums, and the medium says, "Oh yeah, your husband's here beside me. He says you look lovely," and that just makes them happy to hear that because somehow they think it's real. Let's be clear about it. I don't think anybody can talk to dead people. If there's, by the way, somebody listening who's a medium, come on the air. I challenge you to come on the air. I'll put you to the test, but I guarantee you none of them will. They won't. There's been numerous challenges put out throughout the year. One guy was a multi-millionaire, and he put £1 million into a vault and a combination on a piece of paper in an envelope, and he challenged every psychic in the world to guess what was on the piece of paper, and he said they could have the £1 million if they could do it. Nobody ever took him up on the challenge. Now, we all know that these people who do stage shows, they don't even believe that. The people who do the stage shows, they know it's not real, it's just an illusion. They don't pretend it's even real. But these people who sit in their houses with crystal balls or tea leaves or tarot cards or whatever it is, they tell you it's real. They say, yeah, I can predict your future. You're going on a holiday. You're going to meet somebody. All that kind of stuff. Yeah, you left your passport in the drawer. All that kind of stuff. I mean, do you really believe there are people who can tell the future? Let me know what you think. The number is 087 188 0008. Are there people who can actually tell the future? Or do you believe psychics and mediums, do you believe they are just people who prey on vulnerable people? Let me go to Angela first if I can. Angela, hi, how are you?
I'm fine. I can see something in the future right now, and that is that you're going to burst out laughing when you look at the message I sent you a while ago.
I haven't seen the message. Where did you say? Where? Oh, hold on. I haven't seen the message, Angela, but I can't look at it right now, but go on.
No, yeah, I predict you will.
I'm going to laugh anyway. I probably will laugh. Go on.
Yeah, anyway. Do you know what? I think that is the one thing that I absolutely love about Keith Barry, right? Because Keith Barry he blows me away. I've been to so many different shows of his, and I love coming away thinking that I believe in magic, but he will stand there and go, I can't read the future.
Yeah. I spoke to Keith a few weeks ago. We had him on the show here a few weeks ago, yeah. And Keith is an illusionist. He's brilliant.
Fabulous.
He's a mentalist, and he's a mentalist, yeah, whatever they call him.
He's fabulous, and that's what I love about him, is he's not a liar. He's not like, oh yeah, I can predict this. I don't know how he does it, but he's good at what
years of training, yeah, but go on.
Years of training, years of it, like. And if do you know what I mean? Go spend your money going to him, because he'll be better than.
At least he'll entertain you for your money. Yeah.
He'll entertain you. I will say I went to one before. There was kind of one.
Don't mention any names. One of these people who stands up on the stage and pretends to talk to dead people.
No. I actually went to her house.
Right.
And there was one thing that she did say.
Oh.
That kind. No.
Angela, I could start guessing now, and I'm pretty sure I'll get something right.
No. I can tell you what she said.
Well, tell me what she said.
And you'll kind of go, okay. She turned around and told me that years ago my mum had a stillbirth, and to tell my mum it wasn't her fault.
I think you told me that on the air before, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, she could have heard you saying it on the radio. It could have been on Facebook. It's so easy now for psychics. No, I mean, it is so easy for psychics now. They just look on social media.
No, the only thing is, this was going back like 30 years ago before there was social media. She couldn't have known. But then again, how many women had stillbirths? How many women? Do you know what I mean?
A lot of women in those days would have had stillbirths and miscarriages. Yes, it was common. More common.
And of course, back then there was all the crap that went with it.
Yeah, my mom had a stillbirth, and she had a few miscarriages. That's how obviously we ended up being adopted, because obviously she couldn't have children. But so she ended up having miscarriages, and I think she had a stillbirth. Well, actually, it was a child that survived, I think, just for a few hours after they were born.
Yeah. But like the one thing is, in my naivety back then, I was like, oh my God, how am I meant to tell my mom this, But now I go, I don't really think there was anything else. See, oh, you're going to get married late in life. Okay, so what's late in life? I was like, what, 22? Is that 28? Is that 30? I was 36, so that's kind of late in life according to people. It's just, no, I don't believe it. I truly don't.
Is it
believe
wrong
that
or is it?
anyone
I mean,
should
look,
do.
if a woman goes, Mary, let's say, loses her husband, and her mate says, "Oh, come on, I bring you to this woman. She's brilliant. She'll talk to your husband and she'll tell you what he's saying and is he all right?" And she goes, and she's littered with grief, and she goes to the psychic, and the psychic goes, "Your husband Pat is here beside me. He wants to know is there anything you want to say to him." Right? And all of a sudden she's bursting into tears and tell him I love him. He said he loves you too and he hopes you're all right. Now, and I know we think this is funny, right? But to that woman, that brings her a little bit of joy, a little bit of relief. For 40 quid, is that so bad? That's what they will argue.
No. And I genuinely, I really and honestly think if that brings peace to people, then that's fine. But what I don't agree with is when that woman goes back again and she goes, "Oh, Pat's here again." He's and
He said he loved the dress you were wearing the other day.
Yeah. But because it's your second time round now, and we spent an extra 5 minutes, that's an extra 50 quid. Okay, yeah, I'll book in for next week as well. That's when I don't like it.
And that's what's
If it's
happening
a
all across the
one-off,
country. And why is it primarily women, Angela, women are sucked in by this? Why is it not men who are sucked in by this?
because we're dreamers.
Mm.
And we are, like my favourite thing when I'm driving along in the car is I'm a daydreamer.
Oh,
and
we all are. I
want
do
to
that too. I've often done that, Jay. Be in a
but
world of your
we
own. Yeah.
want to see, we want to see the happy things in life. We want to know that people are thinking about us and people then don't give a shit like.
Mm.
So, whereas women do, we are very vulnerable at the best of times. And if someone like that, like, let's say I lost my best friend of 30 odd years in April, right? I would absolutely love to hear, to hear from him. I'm never going to hear from him again because he's dead. And no money in the world is going to let me. Like, I would love to go because we had a blazing row before he passed away, and I'd love to go and say, "What has he got to say?" And I'd love for them to turn around and go, "Well, he said this."
Said he's
No,
sorry.
he didn't. He didn't. He turned around and said, "You were an absolute drama queen." They're just. There's just. Little...
So do you think it should be illegal to promise people that you can tell the future or you can talk to the dead, when I don't believe anybody can? Now, by the way, if you want to come on the air and tell me you've been to somebody and you believe in it, that's fine. I want to hear why you believe in it, or why you think if you think you're psychic and you think you can come on, you're welcome to come on. I challenge you to come on. I'd love to hear from you, but I guarantee you they won't.
Now you're looking into the future there, Niall.
There you go. I've just predicted the future. Maybe I'm psychic. Let me go to Steve.
You're psychic.
I knew I had a funny feeling Steve was coming up next. Maybe I'm psychic. I got a premonition Steve was going to come on. Yeah. Steve, hi, how are you?
I'm pretty sure you have it on a screen somewhere in front of you.
Yeah, it is. It's right in front of me on the screen. By the way, people don't realise this. Over the last 30 years, I've always had a screen with the names of the callers on it because I'm so bad with names that I'd actually forget who each person was. But anyway, Steve.
No, you wouldn't remember me as Steve.
Of course, I couldn't forget you. Steve, I mean, is there any level of truth whatsoever? Look, man, you're a man who believes in some level of conspiracy theory and some of that kind of nonsense. Do you think there is? Is it possible there are people out there that can have some idea or can predict the future for people?
It's Derek Accorda. Derek Accorda.
Do you remember Derek Accorda?
No, Niall, I mean, do you know what? I swear to God, when I listen to this, and first of all, but you and your conspiracy theory nonsense, I don't believe in nonsense. I only believe in stuff that's backed up with science. So, F you too.
Yeah.
But why is it only women, mostly women, fall for this bollocksology? Like, why? Why is it that women are falling for this?
I don't know.
Around and, it's all wonderful, and because men rarely fall for this shit. It's absolutely outrageous that a woman would pay, like they go in and pay £100 to see some loony who's sitting there with our crystal balls hanging around and play smelling
tarot cards and tea leaves.
Yeah, and then they take out like the 5 of daggers and they're like, oh yeah, that's really bad. Of course it's fucking bad. It's daggers.
The 5 of daggers.
It really is, honest to God, to me.
Well, then should it be illegal? See,
ridiculous.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem, right, with the legislation. And years ago they discussed this because the Broadcasting Authority years ago brought in a rule that you couldn't bring on psychics on the radio anymore unless it was for entertainment purposes, right? Because there was a time when radio stations used to have psychics on. And people would call in and ask questions and all that kind of thing. How's my brother? He's dead, and all that, that kind of stuff. So, but the BAI brought in a rule that you couldn't do it anymore because they said you can do it, but only for educational purposes or for entertainment purposes. But here's the problem. Somebody tried to take a psychic to court once, and because
you can't prove it,
you cannot prove. It's like taking to somebody to court and saying God doesn't exist. You can't prove God doesn't exist, no more than you can prove he does exist.
You can't prove a negative, absolutely.
Yeah, so you can't prove a psychic is not real. So you'd lose your case if you brought a psychic to court.
Angela said something earlier on. She said if it brings people a bit of peace, that's fine. What if somebody went into one of these charlatans, because that's what they are, and this person said, oh, I have cancer, you'll be fine, and they end up dead. That's not bringing them peace. I mean, for Christ's sake, because they would never nail their colours to the mast because they're absolute cowards and charlatans.
And do you think, Steve, you call them charlatans? Do you think they're all charlatans? Do you think there's anyone?
Noel, hold on a second. How fucking stupid must the dead people be? Because apparently they're standing there having a conversation with this dullard. They're talking to them, and they're like, "Who's in the room? It's Billy, Bob, Brian, Brendan. No, Philip. It's Philip." Like, what information are these arsehole ghosts giving to the psychic? Can you not just say their bleeding name? Like, or he's wearing a red jacket. No, it's a blue jacket. And then they tell him it was a white jacket. Yeah, well, that's what we meant. It was a white jacket.
Whitey blue.
Bleeding on.
Yeah. But they actually never give their names. They always. Do you ever see the stage shows? I sense somebody. Their name. It's a woman. Begins with the letter M. And I'm going, if a ghost was really going to come back, are they going to tip the psychic on the medium on the show and say, right, my name begins with an M, right? Don't tell them yet, right? But my name begins with an M. And
let's draw it out.
And I died from something in the stomach. Don't give them too many clues. And that's really this kind of information they throw out, this vague information in the hope somebody will pick up on it, some poor sucker who will think they're getting value for money. Now, the only thing is, somebody texts in and says, Niall, I know a psychic lives near me. All of my friends go to them. They're 100% accurate all of the time.
You need to split off your cracker.
Yeah, they can come on the air and tell me that if they want to. Sorry, Angela, you asked me.
Please do.
Can I say something, right?
Yeah.
If because I'm here and I just have RT on the television there, and something's just come into my head, and it's a crime call is on. Jesus, all of those psychics would make it so much easier for the guards.
Yeah.
All they have to do is go, come here, will you contact
But there is psychics. There is psychics around the world. I mean, this is the truth. The FBI have psychics and the CIA have psychics working with them on murder cases, and there have been successes. Now, whether they've just been lucky, I don't know.
That's just good luck.
One of my favourite programs ever is actually The Mentalist, because that's
I used to like The Mentalist. Actually, he was good. Yeah,
but he wasn't
a TV show. In fairness,
the Mentalist. There's a big difference between a psychic and a mentalist. A mentalist isn't telling you any lies. A psychic is an absolute charlatan. I can guarantee you, Niall, I can promise you, some sucker who would swallow a brick if you hand it to them is going to come on air and say, well, you know what, this woman down the road, she's the fifth somebody of the fifth somebody of the seventh somebody, and she told me everything and it all came true. Well, I think if you examine the vast majority of what they said was, oh, somebody old died. Yeah, that's kind of what happened. They died because they couldn't breathe. Yeah, you kind of stop breathing when you're fucking dead, you idiot. I guarantee you're going to get an awful sucker who's going to say that.
Stay there for a second. Let me go to Paddy as well. Paddy, hi, how are you?
Hi, how are we doing?
Good. Paddy, do you buy into, do you believe in psychics?
I kind of do. I kind of do.
Exhibit A.
Exhibit A, yeah.
Right, Paddy.
Here we are.
Okay, here we go, Paddy. So you went to a psychic. Don't mention any names, please, but you went to a psychic, did you?
I did. I went to a psychic, and the only reason I went to this psychic was because I heard a story about this psychic.
Right.
And I heard this story from the woman that was at the psychic. Now, it's actually quite a tragic story. This was a renowned psychic in the Midlands for years. There was a lot of people coming to see him, and you couldn't get any appointments for months on end. And basically, the woman that went to see him was in a little shop that I worked in. And I was having my little lunch in the canteen, and I could hear her talking at the counter. And she said she was at the psychic. And she said, I got on great. She said he was very nice. But she said, he turned around to me towards the end, and she said, you're not going to be living in this little village for much longer. And he said, you're in the papers next week. But I can't see what for. And I can remember her saying that distinctively. And the following Friday, her and her kids were killed by the husband.
Oh, no.
And she was all over the newspapers the following Saturday. And I just remembered. Sorry?
A broken clock is right twice a day.
Very good. How clever you are.
But I mean, seriously, a broken clock is right twice a day. If I sit here throwing out these things constantly, like Nostradamus, I guarantee you I'll get some of it right.
Paddy, it is kind of, I mean, we started the conversation by talking about Nostradamus, predicted that cruel worlds he was talking about next year would hit the lands of Europe, right? And Nostradamus would have never used the word Europe because Europe didn't exist at the time, right? So that's just somebody interpreting that. It's a quatrain. You can make these quatrains, or, the other one, Baba Vanga, you can make those quatrains out to be anything you want. You can associate them with anything you want. Now, and I understand the point you're making in relation to the woman and sadly what happened. That was a tragedy. But I think Steve is right. A broken clock can be right twice a day.
Okay. I'll debunk you again, so right?
Yeah.
Can I debunk you again?
Go debunk.
Right?
Niall, can I just say something there quickly?
Yeah.
I would have to say, Paddy, I am extremely shocked because the one thing a psychic would always say is they will never tell you when you're going to die.
Yeah, but she didn't.
They didn't. They said, no, it was our family died. She didn't.
Because if you know anything about psychics, because I know someone who's a psychic. And she said, you hear the other fella, look. She said, a psychic cannot tell you. No, yeah.
Okay, go on, Paddy.
Anyway, I'll debunk you, right?
Okay, go on.
It's the true story now. My mother, years and years ago, before I was born, my father had a severe accident. He was shot with a shotgun and ended up in hospital. And he was shot in the face. So my mother was brought away for the day by her best friend, my godmother. And they went off down to Galway. And when they were walking through the town, this little woman, Mammy said she was real weird, but she was standing at a lamppost and she just called Mammy over with her hand. And Mammy went over and she knew Mammy's name. Mammy was looking at her because she thought she knew her. And then, no, she said, come in, I need to talk to you. So in she went and upstairs. Now, my mother used to bake the whole time, buns, cakes, the whole lot. So her wedding ring used to always fall off in the cake mix. So she used to take off the wedding ring and leave it in the egg cup on the dresser so as it wouldn't fall into the mixture. And she knew where it was. So she didn't have her wedding ring on. So when she went in, the woman turned around, sat down and said to her, how are you? And she goes, I'm fine. She goes, how is your husband? Now, Mammy, she didn't believe in any of this, any psychics or anything like that at all. She thought it was all waffle. And she said, I'm going to mess with this one now, and I'm going to tell her I'm not married. So she said, oh, sure, I'm not married. And she said, you are married. She goes, I'm not married. She said, you are married, Mary. She said, and I can tell you where your wedding ring is. She said, it's in the egg cup on top of the dresser. She
no, she didn't say that, Paddy. No, she didn't say that, Paddy. No, that's a Chinese whisper. She didn't say that. There's no way the psychic said it's in the egg cup beside the mixture.
I mean, hold on, lads. Hold on a second. Not only that, Paddy, not only that. What you just said is your mother went off with some strange woman that she didn't know and said, okay, she'll sit down and have a cup of tea with her.
No, she knew because she said her on the street she was a psychic. Come in.
Yeah, there's no way, Paddy. See, here's what happens, right? People go into psychics and they come out and they tell their mates, Oh, she was definitely real. Like, she told me loads of stuff that only I knew. But she probably told you, like, out of 100 things they tell you, 3 of them might be vaguely right. And you'll only remember the 3 that's vaguely right. You won't remember the 97 that were wrong because you're not interested in those.
And let me ask.
And she did. I can tell you now, that's a made-up story. Not by you, Paddy, obviously, by somebody who passed it on to you, that she knew where the ring was in the egg cup. That's complete nonsense.
Well, watch this, Paddy. Well, no, Niall, watch this. Paddy, let me ask you a question. Is there such thing as ghosts? Is there such thing as ghosts?
Yes, there is, Stephen. Yes, there is, Stephen.
There you go.
Yes, there is. And well, come here. You can laugh all you want.
Why isn't there a shred of evidence?
I have seen 2 ghosts.
You lying who are you? You have not seen 2 ghosts.
How do you know? I have seen 2 ghosts. One on my own, and the other one was with about 5 or 6 people.
Paddy, to be fair, were you under the influence of anything when you saw these ghosts?
You magic mushroom.
Now, Niall. I was about what? Fucking 7. Come on, man. What am I going to be doing? Mushrooms in the field or something?
It was their imagination.
Well, hold on, Andrew, just quickly before we get into the break. Paddy said the psychic knew the ring was in the egg cup.
I'm actually having a psychic
moment. You know what I'd be doing?
What would you be doing?
I'd be calling her a stalker. Jesus Christ. That's it. Do you know what I mean? No, there is no way, and there is no way that any psychic can go into that detail. Not a hope in hell.
No.
You know, that's just...
Sure, there was a psychic on the radio years ago, and people used to ring up and go, I've lost my passport. Can you tell me where it is? And the psychic go, I sense it's in a drawer somewhere. And I'm going, okay, fair enough. Probably
is. It's in the last place you left it.
Yeah. Do me a favour, actually. I just see Paddy. Stay there. Eddie, I'm going to come to you straight after the break. I'm taking a very short break. Stay with me, lads. The question I'm asking you is about psychics because we're talking about predictions today. And the Bulgarian mystic Baba Vanga has predicted, tragedy next year, European war. Nostradamus also predicted cruel wars, by the way, in the lands of Europe too in 2025. But I'm asking locally, when it comes to psychics and mediums obviously people who claim they can talk to dead people. Do you believe they exist? Do you believe they're real? Do you believe there actually is such a thing as a psychic or somebody who can talk to the dead? Or do you think they're all just, as Steve says, a bunch of charlatans? All right, let me go to Eddie. We're talking about psychics and mediums and can they really tell the future? Is there any of them are real or are they all a con? Eddie, hi, how are you?
All right, Niall, how are you?
Paddy believes they're real.
Noel, there's a woman down the road from me, right, and she's the 7th bride of 7 brothers, right? And she can see the future.
Well, it's always like the 7th son of the 7th son or something like that, isn't it? Yeah.
Stop. I mean, it must be a cold day in hell because I'm agreeing with Steve and Angela. It's just the biggest load of codswallop. I'm a cynical cunt at the best of times, right? So
watch the language, Eddie. Jesus.
Okay.
Go on.
And we went to one when I was living in England. And all the lads were like, come on, it'll be a bit of crack. And some of the girls were really into it. And I went, I'll go. So she brought us and sat us around the table, this old biddy. And there was 6 of us. And she goes, I'll see us all at once, right? So we all sat there giggling. And then she says, I'm sensing someone here likes dogs. And then a dramatic pause, right? And one of the girls went, oh, it must be me dad. He loved dogs. And I just went, for fuck's sake. I just got up and walked out. I said, I can't. You're not getting any money out of me. I said, sorry. And I just got up and walked out. Well, it's the biggest load of bollocks. Me language again. It's the biggest load of baloney. They like, when you go, right, to a psychic, they already know they have you because you're that gullible that you went to see them in the first place. You know what I mean? As soon as you walk in the door, they kind of go, he's an easy mark because he's actually come to see me. He's got up off his arse and come to see me.
This is true. People who go to psychics tend to be a little bit more vulnerable, obviously, in the first place because they're very fact they're going.
Lot of people.
Paddy would go to a psychic.
It's a lot of people that are grieving that go, and they tell them the most vague things. I have someone here in a red jumper. Oh, Jesus, me nanny had a red jumper. You know what I mean? And they pull you in. There's a big dramatic pause, and they're waiting for your little mind to go, oh, I wonder who that could be. Oh, that's Bernie. And they have you, and they've got you. They got you by the short and curlies, you know, and they just start telling you waffle. And now all of these psychics all around the world, how many lottery draws are there a week? And not one of them is a millionaire. Give over.
Yeah, Paddy, I mean, you heard what Eddie's saying. I mean, you'd go to a psychic yourself, would you?
I would, yeah. Oh, jeez, it's not a bother, yeah?
Mm.
Yeah, not a bother, yeah. Yeah, would you?
Paddy, here's do you know, I have a brick here. I'm going to put it in the post and send it to you.
You know what you do with
swallowing
that brick? Do you know what you do with that brick, Steve? You shove that up your rear end.
Paddy,
No, that's what you do with it.
it? Well,
I have three
you're
magic beans here for you.
I tell you, Steve, you're not only a fool, man. Do you know that? You come on here every night. No, you come on here every night with your attitude there that you know everything. Well, let me tell you something, Steve. Right?
It's ironic you're calling me a fool.
You are a fool. I come on sharing my stories with you about my experiences with psychics, and you there making a big laugh and a joke about it, like you know it all.
Please,
Paddy,
please stop.
I think Paddy's a psychic because he just said something that's true.
But sure, it is true.
So, Paddy, how often have you been to a psychic?
That's for Jesus, Niall. I go maybe once every 2 years.
What I'm like I said, I do want to take you seriously, Paddy. So I'm wondering what it is that makes you want to go. Do you not just leave the future to the future and just hope for the best? I mean,
I don't. I suppose, Niall, for me, it'd be kind of like, you'd be looking for a bit of guidance, if you like. Do you know what I mean?
Once
if you're
every 2
struggling in
years.
life.
sorry, Eddie.
Once every 2 years.
Once every 2 years. Now, Eddie, that
Is
could be...
that on day release, is
it? Sorry?
Is that on day release?
Oh, you not? Oh, sorry, Eddie. Are you another Steve? Are you?
Yeah, well, hang on just 2 seconds, both of you there, because AJ, my producer, says that she has some positive experiences. AJ, do you want to share your positive experience with us? Put those headphones on you, AJ, for a second there, and share the positive experience. I'm just curious now. I'm dying to hear this. AJ, let me say now. Okay, she's going to share it with us now.
I was just checking which one was actually the mic. Sorry.
What's the positive experience?
Well, I mean, I've gone to mediums loads of times. Honestly about 20 times. I do it regularly. And
You surprised me, AJ.
I knew. You looked
Leave her
shocked when I
alone.
said that to you.
Yeah, and what do you get from it? Is it looking for the future? Or is it to talk to people who have passed away?
Yeah, it's a bit of both, and you get guidance, and it depends. Like, they give you different messages each time, but you have to be open to it, and you have to be able to interpret what they're saying. You either believe in it or you don't. I believe in it, so it works for me.
There you go, AJ.
Fair play, AJ. Fair play.
Now, come on, what kind of messages have they give you? Like the key is in the egg cup kind of stuff, is it?
No.
I mean,
No.
maybe not that. I actually can't think off the top of my head now. You're really
But is
putting me
it
on the
not
spot.
just the usual stuff? You're going on a trip. You're going to meet a nice man. Or, you know what I mean? Or is it not just I know you're married already, but you're going to meet somebody friendly.
Oh, another
or
nice man.
Yeah.
No, I
Is
mean,
it not just the usual stuff?
there has been other stuff, and they'll say something to you that you're just like, you feel like there's no way someone could have known that, So yeah, no, it's always worked for me, and it's always, you come away from it just feeling a little bit more positive, or you get guidance on things that if you're trying to make a decision about something like that, and you go and you get some guidance, and you just, I don't know, it just makes you feel.
Well,
better.
AJ, I tell you what, give me 80 quid and I'll tell you whatever you want to hear.
But when you say you want to make a
If you
decision,
throw enough mud, some of it'll stick.
so what? Like, I've been offered a new job. Should I take it? I've been offered a new house. Is that the right one for me?
Yeah.
Those kind of questions.
I
And why
suppose,
do you not trust yourself to make the right decisions? Look, sometimes you make the wrong decisions in life.
Yeah.
So, but I don't understand how you believe or how you think that this person who doesn't even know you thinks that they know the answer to they would have a better idea of the right choice that you should
So
make.
what it is they're tuning in with your guides, or with your higher self.
Your chi.
Your guides. You're like your spirit guides.
Vulnerability.
Your energy.
Yeah,
that's
your
the one,
energy,
your energy,
Yeah. I mean,
So, hey, can I ask AJ a question there? AJ?
Go on.
You sound like a much smarter person than the other fool that's on there now at the moment.
Hey.
Hey, you better not be
stop
talking about me.
Okay, go
I
on.
don't even get the question now. Like you sound like a really smart woman, and like
She
you're
is.
working there in 4FM.
It's classic hits. by the way.
Classic
It has
hits
been 4
radio.
FM in 10 years.
Okay,
Go on.
whatever.
Yeah.
Dig down deep. I want you to dig down super deep and give me an honest answer. If you had to bet, if you had to put money on it, do you think it's real?
yeah, I do think it's real.
Have you ever heard, AJ, of the Barnum method? So I think it's PJ Barnum was originally a circus act going back 100 years ago. So what psychics do is now called officially the Barnum method. And what they do is they throw things. So this is whole thing about, the mediums, for example, and they say things like, I'm sensing somebody beginning with the letter M. Now, for most people, they would have had a granny or an aunt that started with the letter M, because most names 50 years ago had an M in it or started with an M. Molly, Margaret, all those kind of names were very common in those days. So somebody will have an M. If there's bound to be somebody in the audience. And then it'll be, they died of something, and they'll point generally to their body. And they go, that's my Margaret. She had cancer of the stomach, God bless her. And immediately they'll point, and they draw people in with these kind of half a suggestion as to what might be, remotely true.
Yeah, they're cold readers, basically.
Yeah,
they're cold
exactly.
Reading.
They're cold reading.
But
so but they're also clever. They look at your hand to see if you've got a wedding ring on. Mm-hmm. If they see an older woman wearing a locket, most likely her husband is dead, because there's a picture of her husband in the locket. So, or things like that, or somebody who's divorced.
What you're describing is a cold reader. There is cold readers, of course. There are people out there who are out to scam you, but there is something spiritual going on as well, and there is people who can tap into that, and I suppose you just have to trust at the end of the day.
All right, thanks for that, AJ. Paddy, there you go. You got a bit of backup there now.
It is, Niall, yeah, because she's talking sense, and you have to have a little bit of belief, a little bit of belief and magic as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For it to work,
Yeah, well,
would you not go to one night?
No, never in a million years.
Never,
Paddy,
never.
do you believe in leprechauns too?
No, don't be fucking silly. Come on.
Well, when you say don't be silly, I mean, realistically, you're believing in somebody who's telling you they can predict the future, and you're laughing at him for saying, do you believe in leprechauns?
Look, there was leprechauns years and years ago, but they're all extinct now.
Oh, God.
See, this is what you're dealing with.
So you believe in fairies then?
Fairy forts and all that kind of stuff, Paddy.
Fairy forts, yeah, they're there. Yeah. Fairy rings. You never went to a fairy ring.
Are the fairies still in them?
No, that's what I'm saying. They're all extinct. They're gone with the leprechauns.
I tell you, you're away with the fairies.
See, Paddy, this is the problem. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Look, if you're a happy man and it makes you feel happy and you believe in fairies and fairy forts and fairy rings and psychics and mediums and it makes you happy, you go live your life. I'm delighted for you. But the problem is when somebody charges somebody 60 quid for it, you know what I mean? That's where I have the problem.
Yeah, but Niall, you have to look at it this way. So I go in there and I'm after losing all my family. They're all dead and gone, and I'm in an awful state, depressed, and life is hard. So, when I go to this medium and they tell me, oh, such and such is here and they're talking to you and such, and it gives you comfort. It gives you comfort.
But I can give you comfort for less than that, Paddy. I'll talk to you. Give me a ring sometime, and I'll give you me Revolut number. You can send me 30 quid. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't believe the Hail Mary out of your mouth, let alone.
No, but I'll make you feel. I'll make you feel good for less. You know what I mean? I understand the point you're making. If some poor woman is grieving over the loss of her husband and she goes to a medium and the medium says, oh, your husband says he loves you and everything is grand up here in heaven, everything is great, it makes her feel better. But you're essentially conning the person out of money, aren't you? Because it's not real. It isn't real, Paddy.
No, it is real. You have to believe it. Come on. Right, well, here's one for you, Niall. Right? And this is as true as God. My niece was in the sitting room years ago, and she was only 3 years of age, and she was playing by herself in the sitting room. And she was talking, and she came back out to the other sitting room to Mammy, and Mammy says, who were you talking to, Caitlin? And she goes, oh, I'm not supposed to say. And she goes, you can tell me, who were you talking to? Oh, it's Joseph. Now, my father's brother died as an infant, who was Joseph. So you tell me, Niall, how would a 3-year-old...
Yeah, Eddie, what about kids with imaginary friends?
They just have a good imagination.
No, Paddy, isn't that what it's called when children have imaginary friends?
Yeah, they might have just watched a cartoon or they seen something on the telly or something. Or kids have great imaginations. I just think, Paddy, that they're preying on your vulnerability because you're grieving. and you're missing somebody. That's just my take on it.
No,
but like
no,
you say,
no,
if you get comfort from it, who am I to judge it? You know, if you get comfort from it, fair play.
I mean, Paddy, there's been so many challenges throughout, the last 30 or 40 years. I can't remember your man's name that offered the £1 million for any psychic or medium that, would take up the challenge. Nobody's ever taken up the challenge. I watched a great program there going back a while ago with Darren Brown, who is world famous. He's a mentalist. Now, Darren Brown will tell you there's no such thing as psychics or mediums, even though he pretends to be one to prove how easy it is to do it, right? But
he's an illusionist.
He's an illusionist, absolutely, yeah.
That's different.
But he still does that whole mentalist thing, right? But anyway, listen. So what they did was they rented out this house in the middle of London, right? It was an old Georgian house. They set up a website and a Wikipedia page based on this house and put in information that was completely untrue, that it was owned by Lord Farquhar or whatever, I don't know, 100 years ago. And that Lord Farquhar was killed in the basement when some horses from his carriage stampeded him and all that. And they put this whole history of the house, which was completely untrue, online. And then they rang psychics and mediums and asked them, they wanted to do an exorcism in the house, but they wanted to know what went on in the house because they felt a sense of presence in the house. They all arrived, one by one. They had appointments made for them all with the cameras set up, the hidden cameras everywhere. And they all recited the story from the Wikipedia page and from the website, saying, oh, I can hear the sounds. I can hear galloping horses. And all. They all just fell for it, hook, line and sinker. And then one of them looked at the picture on the wall and they said, don't tell me his name. It begins with the letter F, like a Farquhar. And so they all basically had just read it online and conned the people who owned the house or pretended to own the house into thinking they knew what they were doing. It was a con, Paddy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. If I organise a psychic, will you come to it?
No.
Will you?
I've no interest.
Just for me, will you come? And then after that, you can do another one about psychics again, and then you can give your experience.
Well, look, by the way,
I'll find the right good one.
I will swallow or eat my hat and swallow my pride if a medium comes on the air and can tell me something that nobody else knows. Like about my brother, my mother, my father, whatever. I don't care if it's personal. If you can come on the air and tell me something that nobody else could know, now, mind you, I'm a bit of an open book, been on the radio 30 years, so I've said so much about my own life that it would be difficult to do that. But come on the air and tell me something that nobody else knows, and then I'll eat my hat and I'll apologise to every so-called medium or psychic. Stay there for a second, because Jerry, hi Jerry, how are you?
Not too bad, no, not too bad at all. Yeah, I've been...
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I've been listening then. There is an awful lot of scammers out there, but there is people out there that definitely do know stuff about you, and they are in contact with the spiritual world without a shadow of a doubt. I was a taxi driver many years ago, and I picked up two ladies in town, and one of them dropped off, put one of the girls in the back, and she just said to the other girl, I know him. And I thought, what the hell? I was dropping in the cab. I know I live in Tala. Never met him before in my life. And then she dropped off the girl, and she told me my date of birth. I was born on Friday the 13th. How did I feel about that? She told me stuff from my past that nobody knew. And she frightened the absolute life out of me. And when I got to Cabra, I remember it was Foster Road in Cabra. Now, she wasn't looking for money off me. She wasn't it wasn't like a medium. And she asked if she would really love to talk to me. And I was so afraid because I didn't want her to tell me anything else. I said, no, it's okay.
Yeah, grand.
And she gave me a number. She gave me a number if you ever want to talk to somebody. And but what happened then now was, that was in Foster Road in Cabra. The next thing I remember was driving down the Malahide Road. I don't know how I got from Foster Road. I obviously did.
I've done that. Yeah, I've done that, Jerry. You know when you're daydreaming sometimes in the car, you're driving maybe particularly long journeys sometimes. Or I've often done that. I'd be going into town and out of town. And I'd get into work in Castle Forbes there where the radio station is, and I go, I don't even remember going through the tunnel. I don't remember going through red lights or green lights or whatever. But you did. At the time you did. Your mind just doesn't remember it. Yeah.
No, I didn't teleport or anything like that. I know I physically did it. But as I said, she said stuff to me now that nobody knew. Like, you just hadn't said if Suggy came on and said stuff to you
I believe it. Yeah, look, if somebody could come on and tell me something that nobody else could know, well, then I'll believe it. But I don't believe that happens. I think people think that happens.
No, I can tell you, this girl, she frightened me. And I can look when I look. And the other thing she was talking about on the way up to her address, her mother was a psychiatric nurse in Brendan's, and she was telling me stuff about her mother and about full moon, the way it affects people. And she was frightening.
Yeah, they say the full moon does affect the mind, it affects the brain. I think that's something to do with gravity and the tides or something like that. I don't know. That's what they kind of scientists link it back to. That they always say the madness comes out on a full moon. Yeah. But Jerry, okay, you're saying that girl that you have in the car you think may have some sort of abilities or something. I don't know. I don't buy into it personally, right? But when I see people being taken advantage of by these people who claim they can talk to the dead, you know what I mean? I feel sorry for people who are sucked in by it. I gave him 60 quid and he talked to my dead husband or my dead wife or my dead son, even worse again. I just feel they're being preyed upon.
Well, they are being preyed upon now, but there is strong evidence out there that there is people that are spiritual. Now, whether they get in touch with the dead or whether they get in touch to a higher power, no matter what you believe in, there is people out there. And a perfect example, and the evidence is there. I mean, one example I know of, and it's well documented, is Patrick Pio. Like, he appeared in places where he was never.
Yeah, but wasn't Patrick Pio? I don't want to disrespect people's belief in religion.
Yeah,
but wasn't the whole Patrick Pio thing debunked? Wasn't there a book brought out that he was using carbolic soap or something on his hand or something like that? There was a whole thing, but that whole thing was the stigmata was debunked at the time. That it didn't actually happen the way it was described, and it never really happened, and there was some sort of trickery going on. Wasn't that was all debunked years ago? Somebody brought out a book in relation to that. I remember reading.
Somebody brought out a book. Obviously, didn't believe it. I mean, the way they bring out books, you discredit people. But I mean, I know in my own school, even back then, I agree, and I say this has nothing got to do with the Catholic Church and nothing got to do with religion. I mean, I watch Indian.
Do you believe in miracles? Do you think miracles happen?
Oh, absolutely. No, I told you a miracle happened to me with my son.
Yeah, I do believe in anomalies. In other words, things that can happen are sometimes unexplainable. We don't have to have an explanation for everything. For example, every single day in hospital, people get cured from illnesses and doctors have no idea how. Right? In other words, a tumour shrinks or disappears. I remember one woman I knew had cancer and her cancer just literally disappeared with no treatment. And doctors have no idea why. But that's just an anomaly of science and medical anomalies, which at some point in the future, maybe we'll figure out how that happened and we can replicate it and help other people. But that's just things that we don't know about.
Well, maybe it's an intervention from a higher power. Whether you're Catholic, it could be from a spaceman, like wherever you want to believe in. But I think anything like that is an intervention from a higher power.
Stay there for a second, Jerry, because I've got 1 minute and I'm going to go to Fiona quickly before the news. Fiona, hi.
Hi, Niall. How are you?
I've only got a minute, unfortunately, Fiona, but your daughter tries to keep people's faith. In what respect?
No, that would be me. I am the seventh daughter.
Oh, you're the seventh daughter of the...
I don't have any gifts or psyches or anything like that.
Okay.
But I would like to think that I like to lift people's spirits and I encourage people to keep the faith.
Well, you do, because every time you come on the air, you're always laughing and you're in good mood. So you do keep it.
Yeah. And I think that's a gift in itself, just to make someone laugh, and that's what I like to do. So maybe that's my gift, being the seventh daughter.
Yeah, but that's okay. But that doesn't. But that's not psychic or mediumship, is it? That's just you. That's just you being a good person. You know what I mean?
People abuse everything. Like I remember my mother saying it to me for years. All we have to see if you're a faith healer or a spiritual healer, all you are is you're encouraging people to lift their spirits. Do you know? That's all it is. It's not that you can see into the future or the past. Now, I do remember reading Nostradamus' book over 40 years ago.
So did I, yeah.
And I have been around to see things that have come to pass. The Twin Towers was in it. The twins would fall. Everyone thought it was brothers, but it wasn't. It was two buildings. So I read all of that, you know. So is there prophets? Absolutely. There's been prophets since before Christ.
I think there are people who are clever
People abuse it.
I mean,
No
okay,
one
but
can-
hold on a second. Let me just put this into perspective, right? When we talk about prophets or people who are prophets, say, 20 or 2,000 years ago are different to prophets today. Let's take, say, somebody like Elon Musk, right? Whether you agree with him politically or not. He would be considered to be a modern day prophet in a sense that he predicts the future. So he will turn around and say something to like, there'll be no drivers in cars in 20 years. That's predicting the future, isn't it? And probably he can do it better than I can when it comes to technology because he's involved in it. So there are modern day prophets. We just don't look at them the same way. They don't write it down in scriptures anymore or quatrains or the way Nostradamus would have done it. So there are people who are clever. I mean, it's easy enough to predict a future when you're reasonably clever.
But if we were exceptionally wealthy as well, we'd be able to predict a lot of the future, wouldn't we?
Nah, if I was exceptionally wealthy, I wouldn't be here listening to everybody, would I?
Well, if I was exceptionally wealthy, I'd have got you all the way to Europe.
Thanks very much, Fiona. I appreciate it. Listen, I have to go to the news. Fiona, Jerry, thank you very much indeed. I appreciate both of you. Bye.
bless.
Good night to you. All right. Overall, I'm going to be honest with you. I would say 98% of the texts, much to AJ's discontent, 98% of the texts that come in tonight believe it's all a load of rubbish and nonsense. And if you had done the same topic, and I would have done it going back 30 years ago on radio, it would have been 50-50. I would have had psychics ringing in, trying to tell people their future and all sorts of things. So it just shows you how, as the world becomes more educated, we believe.
Now, real people, real opinions. Nighttime Talk with Niall Boylan.
Ireland's Classic Hits Radio.